page corner bookmark is designed to slip onto the corner of your page to keep your spot in your book. So it's a really quick and easy project. It's great for all those little scraps of your beautiful fabrics that are left over from a larger project, but you can't bring yourself to throw away. So all you need for this project are 3 4-inch squares of your fabric. Quilting cotton is great for this. It's nice and stable. You'll also need a little bit of interfacing, light or medium weight, just to give it a little bit of stability. So here I have my squares. So my 3 squares, and you'll want to fuse your interfacing onto the wrong side of one of your squares. So we'll have 1 4-inch square of interfacing there, and then we'll need a right angle triangle of your interfacing. So you'll have your 4-inch side here and here along that right angle. And you'll want to fuse that onto the wrong side of whatever fabric you want to use for this pocket. So fuse that on and then fold that diagonally along that long edge of the interfacing and press. And then we're going to layer that triangle over one of your squares. And I like to baste this in place. It's not super necessary. You could just pin your layers together, but I like to baste just because when we go to construct the whole thing, we'll have a few layers of fabric and interfacing together. So I just like to baste this down just to make sure it's tacked exactly in place. So I'm just going to baste these 2 sides. And we're using a 1/4 inch seam allowance when we stitch the project. So you'll want to use just under a 1/4 inch when you baste. So with that basted down, we're going to take our other square of fabric and place it right sides together. And we're going to stitch the whole perimeter except leaving an opening along one edge. And the opening we want to leave along the edge that, one of the edges that does not have our pocket triangle in it. So I'm going to pin. So leave roughly 2 inches or so centered along one edge. And then we're going to start sewing at one side of our opening, backstitch, and pivot around our corners and backstitch at the other side of our opening.
Hey, sorry for the interruption, but Emily here, and I want to tell you about a super cool offer that I have for you from Craftsy. If you don't know what Craftsy is, it is an online community with resource of millions of creative and like-minded makers where members can find endless inspiration, advance the skills you already have, or discover a new favorite hobby or craft that you've always wanted to try. Craftsy offers more than 2,000 exciting classes in over 20 popular categories, everything from sewing and crochet to baking and painting. The classes are broken down into easy-to-follow lessons and are led by friendly, award-winning instructors like me who share creativity, wisdom, and provide step-by-step tutorials. I loved Ashley Huff's sewing class on how to sew super cute skirts. I'm not much of a garment sewer myself, but she had so many approachable tips and tricks on how to make this pattern so easy with her instruction. And I also loved Brenda K.B. Anderson's crochet class on how to crochet rainbow home decor because, let's be honest, who doesn't love a giant rainbow pillow? She also had some amazing tips on how to turn your work when making curves in crochet. I got so inspired by Heather Thomas's class on creative finishing and edging for her quilt, and she reminded me just how awesome and fun it can be to embellish the finished edges of your quilt. She also taught me a new method for how to make the corners of my quilts even more precise. And a huge thank you to Craftsy for sponsoring today's video. The cool thing is though, as a Craftsy member, you will also have access to live stream tutorials where experts answer questions, share tips, and engage with the Craftsy community in real time, which I absolutely love. So the first 1,000 people to click on the link in the video description will get a full year of premium membership to Craftsy for only $1.49. So click the link below and let's get creative together.
So at the corner, we'll stop with the needle down in the fabric, our seam allowance distance away from the next edge. Lift the presser foot and pivot. So we're pivoting around all of our corners until we reach the other side of our opening. Now, before we turn this right side out, we want to clip across these corners to get rid of some of that bulk. And we can even double clip, so clipping across the corner and then clipping the corners that result to just trim down a lot of that bulk. So you want to trim close to, but not too close to the stitching line. When you turn this right side out and poke out your corners, you don't want to accidentally poke through the seam. And then before we turn this right side out, I like to fold this side down. So where we have our opening, I like to fold that down and just give it a little finger press. That's going to help us when we turn everything right side out. It's going to help turn those seam allowances in to the wrong side and get a nice straight line across that opening. All right, now we're going to reach in and start pushing everything right side out. And you want to make sure that when this gets pushed out, that the pocket triangle stays with the side of the square that you want to be the front side. So turn everything right side out, and your point turner comes in handy here. We can push that in through the opening and push our corners out. Now I like to give this a little press. So we want to make sure the seam is right at the edge there. And we're going to do some top stitching around the perimeter. But pressing this flat is going to help everything stay in place. And on the side that has your opening, you want to make sure those seam allowances are tucked in the correct amount so that you get a nice straight line across. So we're going to bring this over to the machine and stitch the perimeter, and that's going to close up our opening. So I like to bump my stitch length up just a little bit for this top stitching, and we want to stitch just about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Just enough to close up that opening and finish this off nicely. So with the needle down in the corner, pivot around. And as you're pivoting around the corners, if you get a little too close to the corner, you might have to help your fabric along just a little bit to get started. And then back stitch at the end. And there is your bookmark. So they're really easy to stitch up. They come together in no time, and they're a great use for all of your beautiful scraps. So stitch them up quickly, stitch up a bunch of them, and give them as gifts to the people in your life who love to read.